Welcome everybody to another episode of Amplify Your Business. Today I'm going to be talking to the founder and chef of the Robert Spencer Hospitality Group. His name is Paul Shufelt. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So Paul, you right now are at the restaurant. It is local time here in Edmonton, just after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And so you must be just getting ready for the big dinner rush, and you're right before Christmas. Everybody's out celebrating and having a good time. I can't believe that we even managed to get 5 minutes of your time, let alone a half hour here.
Yeah, when I told the team I needed some time to sit and do this interview, they're like, "Really? We're really busy tonight." I'm like, "Yeah, don't worry, I'll make it quick, and then we'll jump back in the kitchen." So, from a dress shirt into a chef's coat in a matter of no time.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate you taking the time today to share your experience. And so the first thing I always ask every entrepreneur is, what, in your opinion, are the 3 things that are most important for every entrepreneur to know?
Wow, that's a great question to start off with. One, I think no matter how much you think you know about being an entrepreneur or going out on your own, it's going to be harder than you think. I think that's really important for people to understand. It's daunting, especially when you're solo and you're small and you're starting out. Everyone's turning to you for the answers to the questions, and you're not going to know all of them, right? So some of those things you have to kind of fake your way through it, or learn really quickly and adapt and adjust. And I think the second thing is take a deep breath. Don't get too excited about the high highs, and don't get too discouraged about the low lows. I think of our first few months when we opened the first location, Workshop Eatery, how you'd finish a night and you'd read a review and it was amazing, you were so excited, and then you'd wake up the next day and the hot water tank wasn't working, and it just felt like you're on this incredible roller coaster. And it was probably the first 90 or 120 days where every day you're like, we're gonna make it, we're gonna be amazing, and then the next breath you're like, oh my god, are we gonna pay our bills next week, sort of thing. And I think take a deep breath and take things with a bit of a grain of salt would be the second thing I would say. And I think, I don't know, maybe it's cliche to say, but trust your gut. If I look back at, some of my missteps or mistakes along the way, the vast majority of time, I knew the right decision in the moment, and I doubted myself about doing the right thing. Sometimes it was because I was unsure of myself. Sometimes it was, this path might be easier if I go this way. And even when the path seemed easier in the grand scheme of things, it usually ended up being more difficult or more daunting. So trust your gut. Usually you've got a pretty good feeling, that initial reaction to how you respond to a question or a challenge or something, or an opportunity that comes up. More often than not, in my experience anyways, that's the right path.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? I mean, we kind of have a sixth sense about us, and so it's difficult to relearn that skill, I think, in trusting, because there are so many times in which we're kind of taught not to, that you're supposed to look at the numbers and analyze this and so on. And I can relate back to my business, Ample Media. And so when I started that business, I started on the side of my desk, sort of from my other business, just as a bit of a pet project, so to speak. And I never, if I would have analyzed the numbers and just jumped into it, I would never have started it, because I would have been like, this just doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute out. It's not going to be something that is going to be viable, at least not for a while. And so the organic nature of it, and then just kind of following it when opportunities open up, that really allowed me to grow it. And I'm really thankful for that. But had I analyzed the numbers and not trusted my gut on it, I would have been like, nope, not doing it.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that as well too, because it makes me think of the doubters along the way. That come to you and say, why would you go out and take that risk and go out on your own and put us, sacrifice your time and your money and your energy, and they just don't get it. And I think of family and loved ones who are like, you're crazy, why do you do this? And even on my hard days, I still really love what I do. And if it was strictly about the numbers and work-life balance and all that fun stuff, I probably would have never ventured into this in the first place. But it's a labor of love, and you have to kind of block out some of that noise. So those people that are going to say you're crazy, I think that's important to remind people of as well.
Well, and in particular in the restaurant business, right? And so this is one of those businesses that you hear a lot of people say, like everybody romanticizes about it. Everybody wants it. I would love to have a restaurant, not because I'm a great cook or anything like that, or that I'm really any particular foodie, but I enjoy food. But what I enjoy is the idea of the hospitality nature of it, right? Hosting people and so on. And so I'd be the guy greeting people and giving them, a free shot of this, a free shot of that, and have a drink and being social. That's what I'd be doing, which is probably drive away most people, because they'd be like, God damn it, I came here, Lance, to have a nice quiet meal, and you just keep bothering me. But that is what would appeal to me in it. But everybody talks about just like that is one of the hardest businesses to get, to find success in. Now, you've been at this since May 2015. You started your first one, right? And so that was the workshop, and then Woodshed. You have 2 locations, and now you just opened up recently in Cameron Heights with Hayloft. And so what's the secret here? How come you're successful, and how is it that you're able to continue to grow this into more and more locations? And not even the same, like you're not literally franchising. You only have the one where there's 2 of the same name. Everything else is kind of unique.
I think it's insanity, to be perfectly honest. If I was smart, I probably would have stopped at 1. But, I think for us, when Workshop opened, as I said, you kind of went through that roller coaster, but then we reached a point where it's like, I think we have something here. I think we've created a great neighborhood place that people want to come and visit. And we're not perfect. We make mistakes. We're not going to give you the perfect meal every night, but we're going to do our best to take care of you. We're going to do our best to show empathy when we're not perfect. We're going to do our part to make you feel like a friend or neighbor, not a customer in our business. Mm-hmm. And we worked hard at building that relationship with the neighborhood and the people around us, and we saw success. And we reached that, I guess myself personally, I reached that point where it's like, okay, well, this is working, so what's next? And then we, took that leap and opened Woodshed and kind of kept growing from there. And, a lot of our growth came during the pandemic as sort of, I'd compare it maybe to a gambler going, if we can weather this, let's push our chips in a little bit more. And if we get to the other side of this, we might have some real success here. But I think all along the way, the thing for us is trying our best to not forget that what our first success was being a good neighborhood restaurant, providing a good meal, and taking care of our guests. And if we can hold true to that, for the most part, the dollars and cents work out. It's a hard business, no doubt. I mean, the industry average for full service restaurants, the last I checked, was about a 1.8% net profit. That's not great by any means. And I think some of the best are lucky if they maybe make 10 or 15%. So you work your tail off for not a lot left at the end of the day. So it really is a labor of love. But I think that 1.8% is skewed down by a lot of the people, like you just mentioned yourself, that romanticize the idea of being a restaurateur. And, I'll just open wine with my friends, and I'll buy this guy this, and I'll sit and socialize with them. And then they open a restaurant and realize they're watching their money run out the door very, very quickly. I think... for us, it's really been about taking care of the guests and having a keen eye on watching those pennies as well too, because that is really important in our business. So
now, if I were to try to get in the head of Paul when Paul is thinking about opening his second restaurant or his fourth restaurant, what's going through Paul's mind at that point? Because you deviated from the brand that you had. You created a whole new concept in each of those leaps, right? So I'm just curious the thinking there, and because for me, I think it would make a lot of sense just to have multiple locations of the same restaurant, the franchising kind of model. You definitely departed from that for the most part. So walk me through that decision.
For sure. Yeah, again, I would come back to maybe insanity. It probably would have been a lot easier to have 3 or 4 workshop eateries where the menu is the same and the experience is the same and the expectations are the same. But I think for us, it was, the chef in me, the creative guy in me wanted to have different outlets to express the creativity and different experiences for our guests. I mean, Edmonton's a relatively small city. The greater Edmonton area is about 1 million people. How many workshop eatery visits can they have in a week, in a month, in a year? But if we're giving them a different experience, something more casual, workshop's a nice place where you might go with your wife or another couple to celebrate, a milestone or a great night. Woodshed Burgers was sort of something a little more casual, more approachable, where you might take the kids before the soccer game and get dinner in a rush, or pick up takeout on your way home because you're not feeling like cooking, but you're still getting a lot of that similar expectations of quality and standards and that type of service. Obviously more relaxed, but you're getting that continuity of guest experience, just in a bit of a different setting, right? And then there's the chef side of it. Woodshed specifically came out of the desire to be responsible with the people I do business with. And one of the things we've really been proud of is supporting a lot of local businesses and farmers and suppliers. But one of our challenges was workshop was so small that I couldn't just buy a whole cow. I could only buy the nice cuts. Well, that was great for me and for our guests, but wasn't great for the partners and the farmers we were working with. And that's really where the idea where Woodshed came was, well, how do I buy the whole animal and use everything? And burgers came to mind right away because there's a lot of trim on an animal, and it's a casual approach. It's fun. You can be playful as a chef. The food isn't pretentious, so it was a complement to workshop, but at the same time a much more casual and approachable venue or restaurant, and a much more fun and playful experience for our cooks to kind of have some fun and be creative with the menu, and allowed us to be responsible with that partner that we work with the beef. So, he and I have become good friends over the years, and we kept going back and forth, like, how do I buy more from you, and how do we build this relationship? And that's really where that came from.
So there is a method to the madness after all.
There is. And actually, on that, I mean, Hayloft, you've been to Hayloft. Hayloft is the evolution of that, because we were doing the workshop and woodsheds and greenhouse sort of under several roofs. Now we're using the whole animal essentially under one roof, where Hayloft has the beautiful loins, dry-aged loins on display, and uses various cuts of the steaks. And then right next door on the lounge side, the Woodshed Burgers offers the burgers. So we've taken that idea that we did globally throughout the company, and now really see it, really dialed in at Hayloft specifically. So.
Yeah, and it is. It's absolutely fantastic. If I had meals in every one of your restaurants, and every one of them do not disappoint. It's really good. The dining experience is fantastic in the upper end part, and then, like you said, just the approachability that you have to the scaled down or the more casual dining that is happening. It's incredible, and the food is just really good. So the playfulness of your menu is also something that obviously that you're proud of, something that you're trying to do, and you like to be creative in that way, and it's definitely showing. So congratulations on that. Now, one of the things that I'm curious about is, a lot of your growth, like you mentioned earlier on, was through COVID, where you pushed your chips in and went, okay, well, let's just keep riding this out. What did you learn from COVID specifically?
That there's no chapter in business school or no chapter in culinary school about how to weather a pandemic. I think it comes back to what we started with the trusting your gut and looking at the opportunities that arise. So often it's easy to say, oh, this is a problem and this is going to be a roadblock. But if you take those glasses off for a second and look at it from a different perspective, you can see that there's potential here. If we can capitalize on this market right now and leverage a time when, people aren't taking as many risks and take calculated risks, we can come out on the other side of this, a larger company that's more, growing and doing more. So that was sort of the mindset there.
Yeah, well, and I applaud you for that. And that is something that we took a similar approach actually with our business as well. Is there was a lot of companies that were just cutting back their staff and really reducing, right? And for good reason, because we didn't know what the heck was going to be happening at the very beginning of it. The contracts were kind of put on pause or canceled altogether. Mm-hmm. And as a service-based business, it was really scary, as it was for so many other ones. But what I did is my product is my staff, really, because we're service, and so I didn't lay anybody off. We kept the staff on, and we just pushed hard into our own marketing. We didn't open up more locations like you did, but we just pushed hard into trying to do more business development. And when things started to turn around, we had the staff still to be able to take on that work when people are like, okay, yeah, this is going to last a while. We better keep our business marketing going. And so we were able to benefit, I think, disproportionate to our competition. And so we were able to grab some market share and grow through that. And so similar, it sounds like, to what you're talking about too, just in a slightly different way.
Yeah, you touched on something really important there as well. I remember, I don't know, what I would call it, day 2 or day 3 of COVID, where it was sort of like, oh, this is a reality. We have to lay off basically the entire workforce. And that was gut-wrenching to have to sit and have those conversations with people and let them know that. Thankfully, the community really rallied around us, and our pivoting to do takeout quickly and change the model from at workshop specifically to a second Woodshed location, just to try to get people coming through the doors. And we managed to bring a lot of our employees back. I would say about 90 to 95% of those people that we had to lay off right away, like within a couple of days, like by day 10 or something like that of the pandemic, most of our workforce was back in some capacity. Maybe not in the same role they were pre-pandemic, but most of the team was back. And I think that also gave us that opportunity to grow, because we already had that core, and they were loyal to us because they know that we stuck our necks out to try to keep them employed and provide for their families during this chaotic time. And I think that really gave us a bit of a leg up. And I hear so many of our peers struggling for people. And it's not to say that we don't struggle, but I think we've been luckier than most because we managed to keep a lot of those great people around and just see them be even more motivated to want to grow and take that next opportunity. So. Yeah,
and I think you're bang on, and it's really interesting that we're talking about employees, because just last week I was down on your south side location of your Woodshed down there, and I was talking to one of your staff members who was exceptional, by the way, and that's what I was mentioning to her. I just said, like, your service was really great, really appreciated it, and then I was asking if Paul was around, and I think she said that you were busy over actually where you're at right now at Hayloft, and stuff, and she had made a comment just about how much she appreciated. She's a long-term employee, been there for a lot of years, and appreciated just the fact that there's just so much within your business, so much ability to pick up shifts all the way around, and so she can stay as busy as what she wants to, and obviously plays an important role in the business. And so your employees are definitely saying it when you're not there as well, exactly what you just said in terms of appreciation.
That's good to hear, and I think that in our bit, I mean, you mentioned being in a service business as well too, and as much as I'm a chef first, and I love it to be about the food, I understand that that's not the case. Food is important, but it's that guest experience, and we're so lucky to have so many amazing people that work with us, and we want to pat them on the back and reward them and thank them every day, because they create that special experience. And we have a saying in our industry that you can get a hot meal and a cold beer or a cold drink pretty much anywhere. It's those little things you do along the way that make people feel special. And remember, I'm not going out for a burger. I'm going to see Paul at Woodshed. I'm going to see Jill at workshop, or whatever that may be, right? Because they're creating that connection and that memory with someone, right? And that's a hard thing to do, but we pride ourselves on trying to do that with as many people as we can.
So besides, the obvious answers that one would have to this question, which is, what is it that's going to really fuel the growth and the success of your group of businesses, your group of restaurants and catering and so on? besides the obvious answers to that, which is, investment in people and making sure they're happy and being a good member of the community and building that community, besides those typical answers, what would you say is going to be the key to your success?
Oh, I was going to say most of those obvious things you just said, so now I have to think of something better. I think our industry specifically, and I wouldn't speak just to us, I would speak to the restaurant industry as a whole.
Yep.
I think the most agile entrepreneurs, the most agile restaurateurs are going to be the ones that survive and thrive through this. Mm-hmm. We have taken a beating over the last few years, and I think a lot of us felt that, and myself included, that if we can just weather the pandemic and get everyone vaccinated and get people back to business, life will be good. And then supply chain challenges, and then inflation, and then the increased utilities, and the increased everything. And then it just never stopped. And I think it's really going to be the leaders and the chefs and the restaurateurs that can understand how much our industry has changed in the last 3 years and can adapt most quickly and see the forest through the trees. I think that's going to be really important. I think you're unfortunately going to see a lot of, especially small business restaurants, fold or shutter or turnover this year. We're not through the worst of it yet, unfortunately, and it's going to be about how we adapt, how we make changes to find a new model that works. I mean, our industry is a bit broken. We continue to raise prices. We continue to see gratuities go up. We can continue to pass costs off to customers. And at some point, the customer is not going to be able to afford it. You're starting to see that already creep into the marketplace. And
yep.
What are we going to do to change? What are we going to do to change expectations when people come in and dine? What are we going to do to, maintain affordability without sacrificing the experience? And that's something that we're wrapping our heads around right now. I think I'm losing some hair in the process trying to figure it out. But I think the agility and the adaptability is going to be the big thing over the next little while.
So without tipping your hand too much, do you have some strategies that you're planning on rolling out to address those exact concerns?
I mean, we're working on a few different things. I think we're diversifying. I think of our greenhouse restaurant group. We're looking at making a few moves there. That does the food and beverage for the golf courses for the city of Edmonton. Great initiative for about 5 months of the year, but as you can attest to today, nobody's golfing when it's minus 30 out. So we're finding ways to make that business model more sustainable year round, which I think is going to help us. We're looking at launching more, heat and serve items, grab and go items for customers to pick up and take home, do things a little bit more affordably. And then from there, it's really, looking at the statements, spending time in the trenches, and really looking at our business and taking a hard look, even, for myself included, like, is this thing essential? Is it necessary for our success? Is this the best value for our guest? Are there other opportunities there? I mean, we've been doing a ton of that in the last 90 days to, make sure every penny is used as wisely as possible. And I don't think that's ended yet. I think we still have work to do. So those are some of the things we're doing.
Yeah, completely. So this is another question that I often like to ask people, and that is if they had the ability to write their younger entrepreneurial self a letter. So Paul of 2015, before you started your first restaurant there, what would be in that letter that you would send back to yourself? What would you say?
It might sound counterintuitive to or counter to what I've just said in the last little bit, but I think part of what I would write in there for sure is to better define what success is for yourself, and understand that it's not a number, it's not a amount of stores, it's not a dollar sign, it's not this many sales, this much profit. As I get older and want to spend more time with family and loved ones and have more balance in my life, I'm really finding myself redefining what's going to make us successful. I think that was something that I didn't clearly define years ago, and I'm still trying to navigate now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it sounds like a good piece of advice, definitely for your younger self, but also the other entrepreneurs who are listening today. And so, if any of those people who are listening wanted to connect with you, what's the best way to do so, besides popping into one of the restaurants?
I'm all over social media, usually ranting and raving about something, whether it's Twitter or Instagram. So Chef Paul Shufelt on those, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Or just drop me a line, send me an email, paul@robertspencerhosp.com. Likely I'll get to it at some point. The best way is pop by a restaurant and ask if I'm in the kitchen or running around. I'm always happy to say hi to someone who's interested about the business or wants to talk about food or wine or any of that fun stuff. Happy to pay a visit to a table and chat with someone. So.
Excellent. Well, we aren't going to keep you any longer because we know that you got to get back into that into your chef uniform and into the fire and making sure that you have some people that are going to be thrilled with whatever it is that's going to be on the menu there tonight. So I thank you for taking the time, Paul. And for those of you who are listening who really enjoyed this episode, you can check out our archives over at amplifyyourbusiness.ca, or obviously just search Amplify Your Business on your favorite podcasting platform. Until next time, everybody have a prosperous day. And if you're hungry, get down to one of Paul's restaurants. You're not going to be disappointed. Thanks again, Paul.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Chad. Nice chatting with you.